announcement, and we are really very excited to have you here, Margo. So the stage is all yours. I'll just stop sharing and so that you can start, and let's get started.
Awesome. Okay, let me just share my screen really quickly. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Well, first, thank you so much for the intro, Shruti. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. I know we're coming from all over the world, so whatever time it is, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. But today we're going to talk about resumes and salary negotiations. Like Shruti said, hot topic. So excited that you're all here. But before we dive in, I wanted to just kind of share a little bit about myself so you know who's on the other end of the video. So I'm Margo Hohsfield, and I've been recruiting now for about 8 years. And I'm currently a senior technical recruiter at Gusto, and also an advisory board member here at BBWIC. And as you can see, I've also added a few photos here. So the first photo on the left is a headshot that my friend took of me a few years ago, but I just love how fun the background color is. So it's my go-to. And then just below that, it's a picture of my puppy, Cyrus. Actually, he is 9 years old, not a puppy, but he'll forever be a puppy in my eyes. And then the pic on the right is of my fiance and I, and this was at our wedding shower that we had a couple weeks ago. So that's a little bit about me. All right, so now let's dive in. So here's the agenda for today. So I'm going to start off discussing resume tips, resume writing, how to get the right experience, how to choose the right company, how to get your resume out there. And then we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about salary negotiations, how to do your own research and communication tips, and then a little advice from me to you. And then at the end, we'll have Q&A as well. All right, so let's talk about creating the perfect resume. Now, there are a lot of different formats that you can use, but I'm going to discuss that essential kind of meat that you absolutely want to have in your resume that will highlight kind of your professional background and what recruiters kind of are looking for, right? So the first is a header. So you can play around with fonts and sizes and make it your own, but most importantly, it needs to be easy to read. Make sure that you include your full name, your email, your phone, also city or state. You can also do zip code too, if you're more comfortable with that, or country as well. Also, pro tip, include your LinkedIn profile and any other professional websites that you might have. Maybe you have your own website, or maybe you have a GitHub account that you want to share. Those are really good ways to kind of highlight what you've been up to. Second is summary objective statement. So this one's a bit controversial. You don't really need one, but I would highly recommend that if you're more entry and junior level, I would definitely encourage you to write one, as it just kind of gives you the chance to showcase your writing skills and also your experience. And this should only be about 1 or 2 sentences. And then next is work experience. So in this section, you should list your past work experience or current, including your responsibilities, any achievements that you've had, and also the impact that you had at that company. Now, this should be done in 3 to 5 bullet points, no more, no less, and make sure to include the company name, your job title, and then also the dates that you worked there. All right, now here is an example of a formula that you can use as, one of your bullet points under your job. So it reads, I accomplished X by measured by Y by doing Z. So an example of this might be reduced risk of cyber attacks by 23% by using automatic updates and training 100+ employees on cybersecurity best practices. So from this, you can clearly see what the candidate did and how it impacted the company. So the overall kind of idea here is to capture the impact that you had at a company by using measurable data. Pro tip, if you're not doing this, definitely start, but definitely use a job description that you're applying for as a guide. They literally have the requirements there. So include any requirements listed that you're actually proficient in. For example, if the job requires Python scripting and you have experience working in Python, make sure you add it. The next section of a resume is the education section. So this is where you put your degrees, any boot camps that you've attended, or any certifications as well that either you've already earned or you're currently enrolled in. And put under each degree, mention any relevant cybersecurity or IT coursework. So this is just a really great opportunity to highlight what you focused on at school or at a boot camp. All right, now the technical section, this is my favorite section and most recruiters' favorite sections. Usually we jump right down to it. But this is where you can list any and all of your technical skills. So think programming or scripting languages, any platforms, or any kind of cybersecurity tools that you're familiar with. And I would encourage you to list anything and everything that you're comfortable with. And if you say that you might be an expert in Python scripting, but you're learning Ruby, what you can do is you can break the technical section down into the level of comfort that you are. So maybe you would put expert for Python and then intermediate or beginner for Ruby. That way you're really showcasing everything that you're working on right now. All right, and then here I've got a couple of examples of resumes. As you'll see, they're definitely a little different from each other, but you can see that they're both clean, they're easy to read, they're one page, and they have that meat that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. So again, there's the header, there's an objective statement, education, work experience, and those tech tools section. Now, although they do look a little different, they clearly highlight each candidate's professional experience. And then just a little note, these are both one pages, totally fine if your resume is longer than that. I would just encourage you to keep it under 3 because recruiters like to just scan it quickly. All right. Now, I know some of you might be asking yourself, what if I don't have any full-time work experience? So this section's for you. So what do you add in the work experience section if you don't have any full-time experience? This is where you add any internships, personal projects that you might be working on that are relevant. Any conference workshops are really great to add here. Also any volunteering with a nonprofit like BBWIC, and any other kind of hands-on exposure that you have had in the past. Ways to get exposure in the cybersecurity space. So a couple things I've already highlighted, get a cybersecurity degree if that's kind of in your career journey, or attend a cyber boot camp if you want to do a little bit more fast-paced. Also, getting a certification is huge for companies. If you get a certification, that is kind of showing companies in a way that you're invested in this space. So as you'll see, I've listed 3 here. Now, these are more kind of entry level to mid-level. So we've got the MTA Security Fundamentals. So this is really great for any high school or early college students. And then second one is the CSX Cybersecurity Fundamentals. This one's great for recent grads, or if you're a career changer, really great certification to get. I've also put the amounts of how much they are as well. You see that they start getting a little bit more expensive. And then the Security Plus certification, this is probably one of the most common and most requested more entry-level security certifications that companies are asking for. But this is better for someone who's already got at least like 2 years of experience in security. All right, and then on top of certifications, other great ways to get exposure into the cyberspace is like doing an internship or an apprenticeship as well. And this is really the best way to get that hands-on experience. And honestly, most companies and hiring managers that I speak to, this is their preferred method of experience after you graduate from college or a boot camp. Another really great way to get exposure is finding your community. So the cybersecurity industry has a super high demand of candidates, as I'm sure you guys all know right now. But that doesn't mean that it's easy to break into the space. So in order to set yourself up for success, you really need to find a community like BBWIC or other affiliations or nonprofits that are specific for cybersecurity, where you can get support and network with others who are in the same field, find a mentor and get exposure to events and webinars with new cybersecurity innovations, tools, and tech, because this is a very fast moving industry. Also, a little nugget here at the bottom. I find it super helpful to find people who inspire me and people to look up to, whether you actually reach out to them or not. Usually they share a lot of really good content of what they're doing, maybe webinars or conferences that they attend. So find someone who inspires you in this space. And I encourage you to follow them at the very least. Maybe reach out, but definitely follow them because they're in this space. They know what's going on. They'll have some good nuggets to share. All right, now how to choose the right company. So once you have your resume done, it's time to start job searching, right? The fun part. So where do you start? So first, you should research companies and what they're offering. So a couple things to look out for. Identify companies by location. Are they in your area? Do they require relocation? Also, what type of benefits are they offering? And make sure that the companies that you reach out to offer the benefits that you actually need and that you want. And then some good benefits I've kind of highlighted here, just some standard ones. Healthcare, obviously, we all want some healthcare, right? So one good thing to look for is it covered by the employer? Or is there like a percentage that you have to pay? Also, do they have any benefits for family planning coverage? How many sick days and what does their PTO plan look like? Do they offer equity? Is that paid in RSUs or restricted stock units or stock options? And if you don't know what that is, definitely look it up because there's a lot of companies offering that. Also 401k contributions if you're in the United States. And if the company is requiring you to go in office, do they cater lunch? Do they have a really great snack section that's stocked? And then, do they offer commuter perks? Also make sure that you know when the benefits are actually active. So for example, at Gusto, mine was active my very first day, which is very rare. Typically it's between like 30 and 90 days, but still good to know kind of when those are going to be active. Also, you want to understand what the work culture is like, right? This is where you're going to be every day, 8 hours a day, maybe even more. You want to make sure it's a culture that, resonates with you. So there are a lot of resources available nowadays to understand what people, think about, their company. Glassdoor is a good one. Also Fairy Godboss, if you haven't heard of that, definitely check that out. My only caveat here is, definitely take reviews with a grain of salt because more people are likely to write a review when they're unhappy versus when they're happy. So still you can get great information about companies, just, have that in mind as well. Other good things to kind of look out for, is it remote or hybrid friendly, or do they require people to go in office? What are the work hours, right? Are they set or are they flexible? Also, what's the company structure? This is a really important one. And I feel like a lot of people miss this, but really understanding like, is it a startup? Is it an early or in a late stage? Is it a larger kind of company? there definitely are perks to both startup and large companies. So you got to make sure that you determine which one is the right fit kind of for you. Now, in my experience, startups are more agile, they're more fast paced, you'll probably end up wearing many, many hats as the company kind of builds, right? And then they're at the same time, though, it is riskier, right? Because it is a startup. Whereas a large company, so they tend to be a little bit more stable, but you have a lot less flexibility typically. Also look to see if they have mentorship opportunities. This is really big. Also, do they have a career progression plan in place? Do they promote from within the company, or is there even room to grow at a company, right? Another good thing that a lot of people miss, what's their tech stack? Are you actually familiar with it or even interested in learning it if you're not familiar with it, right? Also, how do they view intellectual property? Now, this usually won't be discussed until you actually have like an offer letter in hand, but a lot of companies are adding this to contracts. So definitely pay attention to this section when you come across it. And of course, the salary range. What's the salary that they're offering, right? Now, at the bottom here, I've listed a few good resources. There's Glassdoor, which I mentioned earlier. This is great for employee feedback about companies. Crunchbase is a really good tool if you want to find out more about kind of company financials, where they're at. Built-in is a great kind of overall company review. And then Fairy Godboss is very similar to Glassdoor, but in my opinion, a little bit better. All right. Okay, now how to get your resume out there. So networking is crucial for cybersecurity professionals. This is how you meet others in the industry, right? Finding mentors, building a support group, get your resume out there and inevitably find jobs, right? So don't be a part of just one group, join multiple and find out which ones are best fit for you. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially when you're establishing your career. Now, ways to do this, right? So join a cybersecurity group and attend events, either local or virtual. And if you're here right now, congrats, you're already networking by attending this event. So great work. And then when researching groups or associations, look for ones that have mentors, resume reviews, interview workshops, support groups, and also study groups for certifications. Also attend conferences. This is huge. You can network so much here and actually meet hiring managers. It's really great. So there's a lot of really great conferences every year. So find one or two that resonate with you. One that's inclusive and also has speakers and topics that you're actually interested in, and then go. Now, if money is an issue, there are a ton of sponsorships that you can apply for. So don't let money deter you from applying and going to those conferences. And most of the time, once you're at a company, they'll probably end up paying for your admission to a conference. And don't be afraid to ask for that. All right. Now, those two are all great, but at the end of the day, the best way to get your resume out there is by submitting it to jobs. I know everyone's favorite part. So there are a lot of really great websites that you can apply for jobs through, but also ones that house resumes where companies and recruiters can actually review your resume. So send it out to both and really utilize as many as you can. So I've put some kind of like really good ones there. So LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. This is where you find jobs. Indeed is also really good. Dice is a bit older, but a lot of recruiters still use it. So add your resume there, and then ZipRecruiter as well. Also, utilize your network and ask for a referral. Now, I know this is a little hard. Say there's this girl, Hannah, and she works at Gusto and I'm not at Gusto yet, right? But we were friends. Maybe we, went and got a certification together, or maybe she's in a group, but she's working there and I really want to work there. And I see that there's a job opening. all you got to do is send a LinkedIn, like message and say, hey, I noticed this was open. Is there any chance you could refer me? Little pro tip. So a lot of companies, they actually pay their employees to refer people into companies. My company does that at Gusto, and a ton of other places do it too. So don't be afraid to ask for a referral into a job. And typically, it's one of the best ways to get in because you're getting a referral from someone who already works there. And lastly, don't be afraid to find a good recruiter. I know this is a bit controversial, but not all of them are bad. A lot of them do have, their hearts in the right place, and it could be a really, really good tool for you as you're job hunting. The key is you want to find someone who understands exactly what you're looking for, and then, let them do the work for you. It's just another way of having someone else get your resume out there as well. So definitely think about that. Okay, now the fun part. So your resume is looking good and you're applying for jobs. So next comes the interviews and the offers. So to set yourself up for success, you really need to prep before interviewing with a company. So first, you need to identify what your determining factors are. So, for example, what's your cost of living? How much do you actually need to make? How much experience do you bring to the table? And what's the average salary for those with similar experience? And this changes about every year, 2 years. So this is going to need to be a constant thing that you're going to need to kind of research. Also, what's the current demand for your skill set? It's very high right now. Everyone's looking for security engineers, software security engineers, application, just anything all around the board in security. Like, this is the time to be in this space because we're hiring like crazy. Second, know your worth and become familiar with industry salary trends. I talked about this earlier, but this is really crucial. So there's a lot of really good websites that do a great job at listing salary trends, but these ones are my favorite that I've listed here. So Glassdoor, I've already mentioned. LinkedIn is great. Also levels.fyi. I found this year and it's great. It is a little hit or miss. I think that they're off maybe by a year, but still a lot of really good information there about salaries. And then so a former company of mine called Stott & May, they're in a tech agency and they specialized in cybersecurity recruitment. Every year they put out a cybersecurity in focus report. Now I've linked one here. It is for the year of 2022, but still I think relevant. But this is by far the most superior that I've seen so far in the industry. What they do so great and why it is so great is they actually break down each job title, and then they have based on what your job title is, they'll have the kind of average salary, and then they'll take it further and they'll also do the difference between East Coast, West Coast, and Central. So it's a really, really good resource. And you can kind of use this as, research to argue for more money. You can say, well, based on this report, they're saying that I actually in this industry space could be making this amount. So good little resource there. I will note that you will have to put in an email and your name in order to download the report, but you can create a fake email, no big deal there. All right, 3. So you want to jot down examples of how your skills and your experience will benefit your new company. This is big. So think about any trainings that you've gone through, any certifications you have. Do you have a security, clearance? What associations and groups are you a member of, right? And for example, as a member of BBWIC, you are actually giving the company access to your network of diverse cyber talent. And right now, this is huge, right? One, there's just not enough candidates in the cyberspace, so they're constantly hiring, but also bringing a diverse talent, which a lot of companies are prioritizing. At least they have been for the past 2 years. And I imagine they'll continue to do so because it's important. All right. Now, some communication tips. So eventually, while you're interviewing, right, the interviewer is going to ask you what you're targeting in terms of salary, right? They may use a different phrase, but ultimately they're going to be like, what do you want? The key is that you don't need to give them an answer, not straight away anyway, right? So instead, what you should do is you should ask the interviewer for their salary range for this position and then evaluate if it meets your needs, right? And a great phrase that you can say like is, I'm looking for market rate. One, yes, that's great to say, but you're not giving any information, right? And then two, but I would like to know what your range is for this position. If you ask, they have to give you a range, at least in California and a bunch of other states. So I would just encourage you steal this and just use this every single time. Also, you do not need to share what you're currently making. I just said it already. But again, you don't need to share it. Also avoid things like, I don't know what salary I'm targeting. This kind of shows that you haven't really been doing your research and you don't know kind of what salary trends and you don't know your worth. So don't say that. Also, this is huge and I know it's hard, but don't be afraid to counter offer. Most candidates that I speak with will always ask for at least 5 to 10K higher. Okay. So all you have to do is just ask, right? I know that's the hard part, but just make sure that if you do, you have done your research and you have the data to support why you're asking for money. That's the big thing, right? Pro tip, if you have, okay, this is really great. So if you have another offer in hand that's higher, so say like Gusto made me an offer and it's low, but I really love the company. I love their mission. I love their values. And then there's another company that made me an offer that's actually higher. Say it's CrowdStrike or something, right? But I'm not really interested in joining CrowdStrike. So what you can do is you can take that offer that CrowdStrike gave you, go to Gusto and be like, hey, you know, I really love your company, but I have a higher offer with another one. Give them the salary, right? And then most of the time they will go back to their compensation team. And as long as the increase is within their hiring budget, they will give you more money. So definitely leverage, you know, another offer if you have one that's higher. So you can actually work for the company that you want to. Also a big thing, definitely make sure that you're considering the whole offer. So the sign-on bonus, the base salary, benefits, equity, 401k, relocation assistance. I've worked with a lot of candidates and you know, maybe the base salary wasn't exactly what they're looking for, but when they added everything all up, it was actually a better offer than another offer that just had a higher base salary. So, and you would be missing out on all this great stuff just because the base salary is maybe a little bit lower. So make sure you're just looking at the full picture. Oh, and let me see here. You guys can see, okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So last tip, don't be afraid to count. Oh no, we already talked about this. Last one, be flexible. So if you do receive an offer from a company, that means that they see potential in you, right? They see that, you know, you could add a lot of value to their current team. So ultimately, you know, they will ultimately want you there. So if you play your cards right, you know, you should be able to get what you want. And if not, don't be afraid to walk away. Okay, that's really important. All right. Awesome. So little advice from me to you. Love this little gift. Don't stop, keep going. We all know that, you know, this journey is hard and it's stressful and it takes a lot out of you. You know, and it just, you know, the journey to get an interview at all and to successfully interview, it can be long, you know, you can feel undervalued. But we've all been there, right? Even I've been there multiple times. But the key is to not give up and don't give into that spiral, right? So it's a story that our minds have crafted for us, but our worth is definitely not tied to these experiences. I'm going to say that again, right? So our worth is not tied to these experiences. some companies inevitably will pass on you because maybe they don't have an opening for someone at your level. However, some companies can and will see your potential and will invest in you. So the key is keep going, keep learning, and know that every interview that you have makes you a bit stronger of an interviewer, right? As we all know, practice makes perfect. All right. And now time for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away.
Wonderful, Margo. It was such an incredible session, and I'm sure that everyone has learned a lot from your session. So yes, we do have one question. Currently, let me just ask you. So it's from Ronit, and she mentions that she's quite new to cybersecurity, and there is one term that the company that she wants to work in mentions a lot, which is a desk fee. And she wants to know what a desk fee is and should she be paying the desk fee?
Well, that's a new one for me. I don't know if I've heard of a desk fee before. Is this for a remote position, or are you coming into office and then paying, like they're expecting you to pay a fee to work in their office? Could you clarify a little bit?
Hi,
Ronit,
let me just, I have a voice. So basically, I've been working as a recruiter. I still get intimidated a lot, but I've been working for over a year now, and now the company I work for wants to implement something called a desk fee. I do work remote. The reason basically for the desk fee that they want to implement is to cover the costs of the tools we are using, like Google Docs, stuff like that.
Interesting. This might be new. In my 8 years, I have not come across a desk fee. Usually when you're hired by a company, they should be paying for all of that. They should give you the equipment that you're using, and they should pay for all of your tools and the software that you have. That's typically what I've seen. So this might be new though, with working, remote, so it could be something that we see come down the road. I would definitely ask more questions about this because I've never heard of that before. And you definitely don't want to pay for something that the company really should be paying for you.
Yeah, no, thanks. I agree.
No worries.
Okay, so we have another question. Like, is it compulsory to share the bank statement as a salary proof? Like Afshan is asking. Yeah.
So like submitting your bank statement for like your current, like what basically you've been making, is that the question?
Actually, what happens when it has happened to me, a lot of companies do ask for your bank statement as a salary proof, and I don't know why, but yeah, they do ask to share as a salary proof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is one.
My gut is saying don't share that because legally, I don't know if there's grounds for that, but some companies might require it. It really kind of depends on the company, especially if it's not in the United States, if it's somewhere else. So that is, that definitely makes things a little harder when you're trying to negotiate for more money. I can see that. But yeah, what I would do is I would look like whatever company, wherever they're located, I would ask a lawyer maybe and be like, hey, like, is this legal for them to be asking me for a bank statement to see how much I'm making? So I would ask definitely ask like a lawyer or someone you trust, and see if that you can kind of figure out, make sure that it's legal that's the first thing I would do before I submit any kind of financial information to a company.
Right. Because as far as I know, that previous employer salary slip would be enough and we should not be sharing any other details.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question, which is quite interesting, like for recent graduates who are completely new to this technical world, and it becomes very difficult for them to negotiate, especially when they are very new and they find it hard or they feel that it might be very rude to ask for a bit more from the company. So what should be done in that case? It is for specifically newcomers.
So first off, it's not rude at all. You should always, always, always ask for more money. And the reason why is because most companies are going to come in at their very lowest rate. They want to get, it's like in their, interest financially to get you at the lowest amount possible, right? I mean, it's just good business to do that. But you, as an educated candidate, always ask for my money. Like I said, at least 5 to 10K. You can even just say simply like, I would like to, ask for another 10,000 because of the market trends right now, or inflation, or whatever you want to use. But I know it's so hard to ask people for more money, especially for those like new kind of, first time jobs, first time breaking into the industry. But you just have to find your voice, find your confidence, practice with friends. This really helps, or in front of a mirror, and just, figure out what it is that you want to say, and then just ask it. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say, no, we can't do that. And then you at least, one, know that you tried. Two, then you can figure out, okay, is what they're offering enough for me to cover and live, the comfortable life that I'm living? So that's what I would do.
Wonderful. So I think it answers another question too, where it was asked that is it impolite to negotiate for your very first job?
No, definitely not. You definitely always negotiate. I think it shows that, one, you've done your research, your worth. And honestly, everyone asks for more money. And if they don't, it's because the company has already offered them way more than they expected. So always ask for more money, because they probably will give it to you, especially if they're, really see the value add that you bring to the table and want you on their team. They will find a way and they will make it work.
Totally agree
Margo,
with that.
I actually have a follow-up question on this. So this happened with one of my friend who was trying to get into a full-time job after an internship. So when he was asking for a higher pay because it's a full-time job, and there were only 2 other security folks in the team, so he has a lot of responsibility. So the recruiter or the HR told him that it's very rude of him to ask for more money, given that his last salary was so less. But that was his internship stipend. I mean, that will be less. And now he was being hired for a full-time role. And he's not getting any health benefits or anything like that. And still he has to work because he liked the company and he wanted to work there. So in such cases, what should one do?
Well, I would honestly evaluate, one, they're not offering you health insurance and they're not giving you a raise, which they definitely deserve from going intern to full time. That's usually a huge jump. So it's definitely not rude. This person was not in the wrong for asking more money. I would honestly evaluate how much they really like this company and the people they work with, because if it's hard to get a bump from entry to full time, think about how hard it's going to be the next time they try to get a promotion or something like that. You want to join a company that wants to promote you, that wants to give you more money based on the work that you're doing, right? So I think that there's a couple of factors that you want to keep out for. So I would encourage your friend to evaluate how much they really like this company and want to work there. And they can, that person can still accept, but then maybe start looking for another job, one that truly will pay them what they're worth, what they bring to the table. Because I think work culture is super, super important. These are people you're spending hours and hours with, right? So you want to make sure that, you feel valued as an individual, as an employee. And the fact that they're not giving benefits is just ridiculous, especially nowadays. It is 2022. There should be benefits for full-time employees, right? So I hope that helps. I know it's a bit sticky situation, but yeah, definitely encourage that person to really evaluate how much they really like this company and maybe start looking elsewhere, because maybe another company will value them and give them a lot more money, which is probably what they deserve.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
Great. So we have another question, like if one wants to move into more technical role within the company, how to reach out to the manager, given that during the interview they mentioned that they would not want to switch in near future.
I mean, things change all the time. Interest changes. So just because you might have said that in the entry, like interview, don't be afraid, because I think it's actually great to be like, I feel really comfortable doing what I'm doing now, but I really want to expand my expertise. I want to learn more. So how can I get access to new technologies, new tech within the company, right? So I think that you should just go for it and ask. If you feel uncomfortable asking that person, maybe ask somebody like an employee who's currently in the position that you're interested in joining, and ask them, hey, like, first of all, what's it like working there, in this role? And then also, how, like, could you like talk to your hiring manager and see if like we can set up a conversation, maybe we can switch teams. So there's a lot of different routes that you can take, but ultimately, speak with people who are currently doing what you want to do, learn more about it. And then eventually you'll definitely need to go to your hiring manager and be like, hey, I'm really excited about taking my job or my career to the next level. This is what I'm passionate about. Like, can I start working in this area? And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be like, absolutely. Like, we want you to grow. And if you're at a company that says, no, I want to keep you on my team, then it's probably not the right company. You want to work for a company that wants to help you grow so that you can continue to evolve in this like fast moving industry.
Yes, I totally agree with that, because growth is something very important, the growth of the company and also the growth of the employees. So you cannot feel stuck in that situation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the next question is like, what is the usual salary difference for roles in the West Coast versus East Coast, like was major city versus town?
So I don't know this off the top of my head, but if you, actually, hold on, let me see if I can figure out, because I have this cybersecurity report. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing and see if we can pull it up and we can show you. So hold on real quick. All right. Okay, I'm going to see if I can share this. And if not, then you guys can refer back to this. I did link it, so you have that information. But let me see. Boom. Okay, I think we got it. Okay, so you guys can see this screen, yes?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is the cybersecurity in focus report. Now, as you can see, it is meaty. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So definitely, like, go through it. I think they interview CISOs or I know that people also call it something else, but I say CISO. So they interview different people, talk about kind of like different trends that are happening, but the best part is over here. Okay, so this is what I meant by breaking the salary range up. So I know these are more high level. Let's see. Okay, so security engineering. So these are probably closer. I thought they did security analyst. I might not just be seeing it. But this is typically the difference. So, and they also do the UK as well. That company is a London-based company. But yeah, so you can see that most of it is pretty similar. Sometimes they're a little bit, I thought East Coast would be a little bit higher, but with things getting so expensive on kind of the West Coast, it looks like they're pretty much exactly the same. So there are little differences here and there. But yeah, feel free to dive into this, because this could be, just like a little nugget of information, so there's 3 numbers. So this is like the like lowest amount that you should really be making for like a security automation engineer. This is the average. And then this is like the high end. So that's what those 3 numbers mean. So if you want to be a cybersecurity threat hunter, don't take anything less than 140. but shoot for 160 to 185. Like these are the ranges you should give companies. And then they'll, if they offer you a little lower, then it's fine. But you want to be targeting like these for sure. But yeah, I'll stop sharing that. But hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, this is something really interesting. And okay, there are more questions. We'll take few more. So as a fresh graduate applying for jobs while pursuing your MS in the States, what is the initial expectations one could keep in mind in terms of salary?
So just graduated from school in the US and wanting to get their first job. Is that, just want to confirm that's what we're looking for in terms of salary. So I think that the first thing that you should do right out of college is get an internship, honestly. Unless you're coming from another country and you've already been maybe like a software engineer and now you're switching to be security, that then you could jump right into getting a full-time job. But I think right out of school, getting an internship or an apprenticeship, sometimes you can work with organizations that will have you do like a 1 or 2 program apprenticeship, and then the company at the end will hire you. So it depends on the route to take, but I would say entry level, don't take anything less than, well, it depends on what state, right? So I would say entry level, your first full-time job between 75 and 110. I know it's kind of a big range, but that's factoring in East Coast, West Coast.
Yes, I totally agree. And someone wants to say something, but what if this add-up question from my end also, like what if the person is already having few years of experience? What should be done in that scenario?
So they already have a few years of experience, then, so depending on which area, I mean, application security, cloud security, those are very hot areas. Also like detection and response are really like hot kind of spaces to be in. So if you have a little bit of experience in that area, the salary will be a little bit higher than maybe like a SOC analyst or a security analyst. So depending on which route you're taking, for application security, once you have 2 years of experience, you should be making at least 180,000. Okay. Same with cloud security is a little less, I would say between like 150 and 175. And then like security analyst, say that you already have 2 years of experience, you should be making probably between 150 to 180, depending on location.
Okay, that makes sense. So someone, you raised your hand. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Margo, for answering that. I just wanted to add up that same question that Shruti also added, but coming down from a different country and starting up here, that was the major gist, how one should expect as a graduate and what things move on. But that answered my question. But a little off topic to the salary and this part is there are organizations as well who actually do not sponsor work authorization for people coming down from different countries and be on visas. So that's my next question onto that, like what organizations do we focus on? Because as mentioned in your presentation as well, you said that startups are more agile as compared to bigger organizations. So just if you could shed light onto that part as well.
Yeah, and amazing question. I'm actually hoping to host a session on visas and transfers and just like getting people set up for success as you do get visas. So my understanding, so first, when you graduate, you get an OPT visa, which can be good for 3 years. So you can work for any company under that visa, okay? But once you need to transfer it to an H-1B visa, then you need to be working with a company that's E-verified. Companies will know, and this is a question that you can ask before, and I don't know if you can find it listed like online, that's not typically, but once you get an interview, you can share that, eventually down the road, I'm going to need an H-1B, or maybe you're at that point now, and it has to be with a company that's E-verified. So you can ask them, are you an E-verified company? And then you'll know whether or not you can't work with them.
Thank you so much, Margo.
Yep, of course.
Thank you so much, Margo. We have another very interesting question, I must say. So do
Bring it
you
on.
suggest do you suggest tweaking in changes based on the job description to increase your chance of getting shortlisted? So what are some things a hiring manager doesn't want to see in someone's resume?
Doesn't want to see. This is a good question. So there are a few things that come to mind, but it's more individually based. Like, for example, I don't want to see what your GPA was at college. For whatever reason, it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't need to know that. It's extra information. I also hate, like earlier in the presentation when I was talking about under work experience, only having 3 to 5 bullet points. Like, we look at hundreds of resumes every day. So keeping it really short and making it short but efficient. So that's why I kind of gave you that formula. Like, we want to see what you did and how it impacted the company, right? So focus on that. If there's anything else I don't like, I don't think that there are specific things other than that weird GPA thing, but some companies like that and some people do. I know it's really not helpful to say that, but everyone is a little different, and so are recruiters, right? We're people at the end of the day. So we have preferences. For me, the biggest thing that I would focus on is that technical skills section. I usually skip everything and go right there to see, this is exactly what you bring to the table in terms of technical based. And then I go back to the top and I'm like, okay, what kind of personality do you have? What kind of impact did you have in the company? So that's the order of which that I actually do things. So yeah, I think that's what I would say for that. I know, hopefully that was helpful.
I am sure that was helpful, but yeah, to adding to that, like while I was looking for a job, what Aarti has just now asked, like I was also suggested by a lot of friends of mine, that if it is possible, I can tweak certain things, like even if I am not aware of that particular technology, but they asked me to add it so that my resume gets selected or shortlisted for that. So is it the correct way to do, or should we be doing or following such kind of steps?
So never add anything to your resume that you don't feel comfortable with. That's actually another like pet peeve of mine. If they say that they're, fluent in Python, but they've only like played around with it once or twice, don't add anything that you can't back up. Like, if there's a technical assessment, you want to be able to do that in the language or whatever they're testing. So don't lie on your resume. That's a big no-no.
Totally agree. Okay, we'll take this one last question. So if someone already has an internship and could be converted to a full-time employee, but not guaranteed, so should they keep applying at other companies and accept that job but not getting the desired role? Because it's blocking the company as well, so you cannot apply anywhere else too.
That's interesting. I've never heard that you would get blocked from applying to other companies. Is that what you meant?
Sometimes happens. It's not like you get blocked to do that, but sometimes you're not allowed to do. So they put it in the agreement while you are just signing that
that you won't apply for other companies.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, for a certain period of time.
Okay. I would still apply, to be honest. At the end of the day, like, you need to like, do what's best for you. And you want to make sure that you're going to have a job just in case this other company isn't going to offer you one by the end of the internship, right? So I think I would look out for yourself, because no one else is going to, even if it is breaking that contract that you signed. Because one, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but you can always say that someone reached out to you and you didn't apply. That's an easy workaround, right? Because you didn't apply, someone just reached out to me and like, oh, it just happened to make me an offer, but yeah, I would definitely just say that you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up to have a job. You got to pay bills. We all do. So look out for your number one, which is you.
I completely agree. And the statement that you made, that we have got to pay the bills. So it is very important for us to do that.
Yeah.
So, well, it was a wonderful session. We will not take any more questions, but in case you have other questions, please reach out to us, to BBWIC Foundation. Someone has already shared all the resources that you'll need. And also, if you're not our member, as you can see that we are having such incredible sessions, and every month we come up with such sessions. So become a member now. Someone has shared all the resources. Join us, and you're going to attend all these sessions for free. We have these monthly meetups. And thank you so much.